So today we're not going to take much time. We've been dealing with Zoho Deluge, so our sessions these times are going to be quite shorter. I'm just going to show you a couple of things in Zoho Flow and we'll be out of here. So it doesn't have to always be long sessions. It can just be a few minutes to help you understand certain things. So on Monday, we created a flow. And inside the flow, we had a function that was used to do a particular thing. So let's say that this function, for instance, okay, sorry, there was a glitch in the, I forgot to turn on the YouTube. One moment, please. Okay, so let's say, let me try to share my screen. 1 second. I'm going to just share. Okay. Okay, so let me just start from where I started. So I'm in Zoho Flow right now, and this is what we did on Monday. We tried to set up an integration between Zoho CRM and Zoho Books. So if we go to the builder, we find out that we had this function, and we had to pass variables into the function. Now, there were issues with what we did, so I'm going to look into those issues. So if we go to Zoho Books, for instance, now, and we have in Zoho Books the customer that was created. I'm not sure why it has an invoice now, but I think this invoice is for somebody else. Yeah. Okay, so there was something in between the first and the last name. So there's a hyphen here. So we have to deal with that hyphen. And we got that hyphen because of a mix-up somewhere. So we're going to find where the mix-up is. So we'll go to our custom functions here. We'll go to test outlook. Try to see what happened. So now we were trying to create something that shows you first and last name. So we're going to test it here. We will have our first name, we'll have our last name, and we'll have doctor. And that gave us Dr. Imubusa Onerina. There was nothing wrong here. Now let's go to where customer was created. And we see first name, trigger last name. There's nothing, there's a problem here. How about, okay, it's creating, okay. Just need to be sure that everything is not ahead. Now, what about in here? So in here, just pulls the information from contacts. What it means is that this problem came from the CRM. So we're going to go to the CRM and check whether there is an issue with yes, there is. So in the contact name, I mistakenly put a hyphen. Now let's do something in Zoho Flow. Let's do create or update with the logic. Now, do we have create or update with Zoho Books? There's only one way to find out. So this was create customer. Unfortunately, we don't have create or update customer. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to manufacture our own create or update customer. Okay. Do our own create or update customer. So in order to do that, we're going to do a logic check. Now, this our function does not carry any other thing apart from name, but the CRM carries email. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to fetch customer from Zoho Books. Okay. So let's say this is fetch customer, and we're going to search customers by email address. And then we're going to use the email address information in Zoho CRM. So this fetches the customer. Then we'll create a logic. Decision. Then we will say that we're checking now if we're going to use to check in our fetch. One of the fastest ways is to say just search for ID. So fetch customer is going to bring you the primary contact ID. Now, this is not a safe thing to do. Zero CRM ID, zero CRM. No, you don't want to do this. So just focus on primary contact ID. And then we're going to say it's not equal to none. It's not equal to null. So if it's not equal to null, we'll say check existing customer. So this condition is the customer exists condition. So we'll say customer exists. This is when the customer does not exist. So when the customer exists, we're going to go to our method now to update the customer. So update customer when the customer exists. So for update customer, we're going to just pick the customer ID from fetch customer. Again, we're going to search for ID, primary contact ID. Okay. And for this update customer too, what are we trying to update in the customer? We want to update their first name, we want to update their last name, and we want to update their display name using the information here. Okay. Now, one of the smart things that you can do here is to make sure that this your variable idea also only when say there is a value. So what you can do is create another condition calling it customer does not exist. So customer does not exist. Okay, we use customer ID here. I'm going to change this to customer ID. So let's say customer ID equals null. Let me change this other one to customer not existing here. Then this one, I'm going to make it customer ID. It's not on. That means customer exists. Okay. Then for update customer, I'm going to use customer ID. So So I'm going to say customer ID. Okay, so this updates customer. Then for new customer, I'm going to use, I know some of you would have used the alternate logic, but there's a reason I'm not using the alternate logic. And the reason is I want to introduce another condition for each of these logics that says that the um, the status must be true, and then this other one, status must also be true. Let's check whether we had done the right thing here. Status. Let's just be sure. Status. Okay, it's status of Outlook. Excellent. Okay, so we have status for updates. Now let's have status for create. But before we continue, let's be sure that we used customer ID here. Yeah, it's contact ID. That is the information. Okay, and it shows us display name using the message. Then we have the create customer here, which is, this case is an individual. We have the trigger title. We have the display name, correct. Okay, good. So this is going to allow us to update the record as well. Then if none of these match, it's not going to do anything. Okay, so what we've done is that we have filtered the test outlook to ensure that there is no variableness. So this will work now. So when I edit this CRM contact by removing this hyphen, it's going to update the record in Zoho Books. Okay, I think it did the wrong thing here. And that's because, there's no email address. Oh, I'm so sorry. There's no email address. Okay, so in that case, we're going to have an additional condition. And the additional condition is to make sure that there is email address. Okay, so we're going to add another condition and check for email. And we will make sure that the email is not null. We'll check this one too and make sure that email is not null. Okay. So email is not null. Apply changes. Great. So I think we made a mistake here. What I'm going to simply do is I'm going to delete this. So we really need to work something out around this. Okay. And one of the things you can do for a situation like this where there's no email is to I know you have a record ID, but what you may need to do is to then put the value in the CRM. And to add the value to the CRM, you need one more thing here. You need to modify the layout. So we're going to modify this layout now by going here, going to setup. And then while we're in setup, we'll go straight down to customization, modules and fields. We have contacts. So we're going to click on layout. Now under layout here, we're going to go to the standard layout. So that's why we want to make the modification. Then we're going to add something to this layout. And we're going to put it somewhere that we can find it easily. So under contact owner, that's where we're going to put it. We'll create a single line text here. And we're going to call this ZCRM ID. So ZCRM ID is a field. We don't need to mark it as required, but we can edit other things. So we can say, do not allow duplicates. This is to make it an external field. What this does is, it's not something I want to deal with now. I think this is fine. Okay, this is not visible to all the users in the organization, so it's not a public field. Then we're going to save it. So standard layout has been saved. Now there's one more thing we need to do in this standard layout. We need to see we need to get the field variable names. That's something that okay, let's cancel this. Okay, we have permission for this. Okay. Then, okay, so this is fine. So now that we've done this, we're going to do one more thing. I'm going to manually put this contact ID inside the layout value of that CRM record. So I'll go to my modules, go to contacts. I see my contacts here. You see my Zoho CRM ID now. I'm going to manually put this here. So this is my Zoho CRM ID. So now, instead of using the email address of the customer, I'm now going to fetch the customer by my custom field. I will refresh this so that it's going to give me some more fields. And then, okay, this didn't give me that, so let me use OCM ID here. So we will now search based on this field. So you see that this is the same field I'm using to search. Can you see that? I knew that OCM is just going to give it like an underlying difference there. So it's going to search for existing records with that ID. I have to put it manually because I've already created this. And I want us to correct this record. Now, the next thing I also want us to do here is this Mr. that was put here. I need us to deal with it. So let's come and find out where this Mr. came from. It came from first name. The Mr. came from first name. But I want us to use stuff like doctor. So I don't want us to be using the, let's do things like call a spade, right? So in the description of the person's name, where you have title in Zoho Books, it shows differently. So let me try to get what Zoho CRM has. Now, in terms of the name, let's see if we can get something out from here. Okay, this doesn't allow us to pick that value. It doesn't allow us to pick the value. Okay. So I think that what we can do here is to hide that. So we can hide that part of the name. So let's cancel this first. We're going to hide this thing from the CRM field. Okay. So that it doesn't form part of the field. Though this is going to obviously execute our flow. What I just did. Okay. Well, maybe it's stuck. The flow got stuck somewhere. Okay, great. So let me go to the layout. Oh, wait. Oh, I think I have a redundancy situation. Yes, I do. So I'm going to have to stop the flow right now. So we have talked about this in the past. And this is a situation where if you create an update flow, you have to have a stopper. Otherwise, the flow will continue to run. You see now that it has executed this flow twice, and it will keep trying to execute the flow. When there's updates, it tries to update. Okay, it didn't even go further. Okay, great. It used email in that case. Okay, it used social ID in this case. Okay, great. So this didn't even work. Okay, so let's go and sort our layout issues. So this is just for this particular instance of CRM, but I don't want you changing your layout anyhow. I just want us to have something tidy to use today. So if we come to this first name, we will see that we can customize salutation. Okay, and this field is even salutation. Okay, great. So let's even see if we can work with salutation. And if we can work with it, then we will not need title again. So let's look for salutation. Yes, it's here. Okay, great. So we use salutation. Okay. Again, in this place, we use salutation. So, great. So that means we do not even need to go and hide the record again. So everything has been sorted out. So when we are creating or updating, we use salutation in create, and we use salutation in update. It's just that in the display of the full message, okay. Oh, so updates uses salutation. Interesting. Okay, that's interesting. So for salutation, we will just place in our salutation field. Okay, great. So we use that to update. So now that salutation has been set up, we can use this auto arrange to arrange our items. Okay. So all our items are arranged. Now, so let's take a look at why the last flow failed. It will be a simple reason. So first and foremost, let's get that the contact ID was this 60, yeah? Let's go away from this module editor and go to our modules here, go to contacts, and check whether we put the proper thing as contact ID. We didn't. Okay, so save this here. So this is ZCRM ID. Okay, so what eventually happened, so for title was wrong here. So title didn't even carry anything. For fetching customer, I'm not sure. Search by ZCRM ID, and the search value was null. I'm going to come to that, and I'm wondering why. Okay, let's see. If the search value was null, it's because null was provided. So let's see what the value of ZCRM ID was. There was no value. Okay, so I think that we should. One of the mistakes that we made was in this particular uh, inside here. See? So we didn't get that ID well here. So this is done here. Okay, let's turn this on. Okay, before we turn this on, we need to look at something first. There's one more field we need to create. And that's not even creating a field. I think what we'll do is if we update a record, let's see if we can get date values. Let's check for date values here. So we have modified time. Good. So we have modified underscore time. And we'll check if the modified time is greater than Okay. So let's check for modified. Time modified on the update of this guy. And if this time, okay, this is not really helping. Now, you see, we've been talking about functions and functions and functions, and this is where functions come in. You see how a function could be useful when you cannot see where to provide a constraint from. You can provide it within a function. So what you can do is you can get this modified time, get this other one, and use it to carry out your comparison so that it doesn't have to update again. We're going to use this method, but we're going to use the second kind of method as well. So let's cut this off at this point. Okay. So the second method, the first method that we will use is with a function. So we're going to create a new function. And what this function does is to check time modifications or check time mods. Okay. And I'm just going to make it a bool, true or false. So I'm going to get a date value here. I call it CRM mod and get another date value here and call it books mod, or let's say Z books mod, ZCRM mod. So there are two dates here now. The idea behind this function is very simple. Now, if ZCRM mod, okay, let's first of all give a value and say, look, date check. Date check is equal to false. Okay. Then we'll return date check just to make sure that everything is in check. Now, ZCRM mod is what now? ZCRM mod. So if ZCRM mod is not equal to null and zbooks mod is not equal to null, then we can say if ZCRM mod, that means if the CRM record was modified after the books record, zbooks mod. Because if the books was modified later, that means it has been updated. But if it was modified after the books mod, then that means that it was modified again, so it needs to be changed. Yes? So the books mod need to be modified and things have to stop. So we're now going to say that date check equals true. Okay. Now you can test the function if you like. You can put a date and another date. So let me try to get a date string from here. I'm just going to run a Zoho.currentTime string. Just going to get something that qualifies. Execute. This is going to be false, obviously, but it's going to give me my date and time string. Yes. So let's say now that I modified the CRM record at this time, and then I modified the Zoho Books records, maybe at a later time. Let's call this 10. It's going to give me false. But if I modify the CRM record at this time, and let's say I modified the Zoho Books record earlier, it's going to give me true. So you see, this is correct. So this will work. So what we're going to do now is to bring in our check time mods. Okay. Then the Zoho CRM update time, we'll call it modified. So this is the modified time for Zoho CRM. This is the modified time for Zoho Books. Then we bring this down. Now, all we have to do is to now say we want to test this check time mods, and we're going to test it inside here. But check time mods gives us one single Boolean value. So we're then going to say that, look, if check time mods is true or false, do you see that? So we're only going to do this if check time mods is true. Then we're going to come here too and do this only if check time mods is true. That way, we do not. Okay, but there's one thing too. So if, for instance, the customer does not exist, we don't have to use check time mods, yes? Well, let's see, what's that going to be? Okay, we don't have to use that. That's a careful observation. So in this case, the customer doesn't exist. So I think that this is going to work now. So let's try to switch on the flow. And then let's try to work on our CRM record. So we're going to edit. We have our CRM IDs in place. And then we save. So now let's go to the history of Zoho Flow and see if it's going to pick something up by 12:30. Okay, so this is done here. Good. So now this has checked existing customer. And let me see what the issue is. It went to the default. Check time mod was false. Okay, so Zoho Books mod was not mentioned. So there's still something wrong here. It's still not picking the right. It's not picking anything in here. Okay. I need to pick this. Okay, this is the ID. What did I do here? 079381935. Oh, no, 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 no. It's supposed to be the Zoho Books ID, rather. Sorry. I'm so sorry. This is supposed to be the Zoho Books ID. So I'm supposed to pick this and put it properly here. Okay. So let's see what this does. Okay, still on doctor. But let's confirm 12:37. It still came out as false. Zoho Books modification did not come out. I'm trying to check what happened. Okay, but let me check if it got something. Okay, I think that this fetch customer is using the wrong thing. The fetch customer is supposed to search by ZCRM ID, but it's not giving anything as value. That's because it's supposed to use. Okay, there's a weird reality here. I think I have to work on the trigger so that it will pick the value. So the trigger needs to be updated. So this is in contacts here, right? Yes, so I'll just apply changes. Okay, so let's see whether it will automatically see things in the trigger. Okay, this is the trigger. Let's come here. Okay, it's in the trigger now. So I think that was where the issue was. So let's try and update it again and save. And then it's going to hopefully pick it up in the trigger. And let's go to the history now. We have 1240. Okay. So let's see what came out of the trigger. Okay, so our ZCRM ID is here now. We're able to get the customer. Yep, so this is the customer, quite all right. Now we need to now check the time modes. Okay, so there's a little issue here, or maybe not. But let's see what this did. So the Zoho Books time modes is showing differently, but it was actually true. Let's see, this is okay, so it has not been modified before now. So check existing customer and it still didn't modify it. So here's the thing. It's no. It's true. It's true. Okay. So customer contacts ID. Let's check. Okay, so this is basically primary contact ID and contact ID. So contact ID is here. Okay, contact ID is okay. So I think contact ID is fine. So we have contact ID is good. Test outlook status. Test outlook status, I think it's true. Let's check to be sure it's true. So test outlook status is true. Okay, great. And then this one is true as well. But it's going to the default. So let's see if we can check what is here. So I think I want to take out this trigger email, or maybe what I put in trigger email is not the best. I should have put equal to nothing. You see, it's not good to give up on what you are doing. It's always good to look at all the other options. So I have made this equal to nothing. So if customer exists, And okay, it's true. We don't even need to use email checks. But let's just focus on equal to nothing for now, just so that we don't invalidate what we were doing. So email um, equals nothing. So this is assuming that we're only working on customers that don't have emails. Okay. So let's try to edit this and click save. Okay, so this is a special type of confidence that we have. This 1244 now. And it updated the customer. Now if we check, we have 1244.10 and it stopped there. It didn't run again because it updated the customer in Zoho books. But we had to put our conditional check to make sure that we don't have a looping situation. So the customer is updated automatically in Zoho books. So if I go to change this to doctor, for instance, in Zoho CRM, and I go to Zoho books, the customer will automatically be changed to doctor in Zoho books. You can see it has already changed. So now, let's say we have a new customer, okay? And we didn't create the customer inside Zoho books. We created the customer inside Zoho CRM. So we did create contact here. We didn't even add an email address to the customer. Now, you know that this update has to come back to Zoho CRM, right? Okay. So in order for us to update into Zoho CRM, we have to make sure that we do this Zoho CRM update immediately after we do this update immediately. Let's see if we do it immediately after we fetch from the CRM. Update the CRM, then we need to update Zoho books. Update the CRM, we need to update Zoho books. Yes, okay, so let's go to Flow now and try to make this thing as realistic as possible so that we can use it in production. So what we're going to do is, anytime a CRM record is updated, we're going to set the ID inside the field. So what we're going to do now is to look for Zoho CRM here. And then we're going to update contacts because it's a contact module that we're working with. Okay, well, this says create or update contacts. We're good or fine. This is for updating contacts. So we're using it to update contacts in CRM. So let's come here now, move to it. Now, in order to update this contact, all we are going to have to do is to pick we're going to put the CRM ID, which is the contact ID here. Is the entry ID here. And we're going to check another ID field here. We're going to check to make sure that the contact we're referring to is the same person. Okay. Okay, this came as okay, it uses email. It uses email, which is not a very good deal. So I think in that case, what we have to do is to ensure that this ID is not defined from here. So we won't define it from here. We're going to define it from somewhere. And I'll let you know where. Let me remove this. So Zoho CRM is using email, but we're going to be smarter than them. So we'll go to setup. Now under setup, we're going to do a little bit of automation here. So we're going to come to workflow rules. Remember we had this workflow rule affair, yeah? So we're going to use this workflow rule for contacts. And we'll say created or updated. So when does this workflow run? On a record. When the record is created or updated. Okay. Okay, I'm not sure why, whatever that is, but I have my conditions. Now, it's going to happen only on certain conditions. It's going to happen only if our ZCRM ID is not equal to, isn't contact matching. I think I should be able to put in a field value. Okay, so let's do what we would usually do. Let's get some documentation help, shall we? So let's go to Zoho CRM workflows, workflow rules, and then we'll say criteria using fields. Now, when you do your Google search, you're going to make sure that the value you get is not the AI value. The value you get is the one coming straight from Zoho CRM's documentation. So this is workflow rules, Zoho CRM's documentation here. And it shows us all the some options here. Some example. They even put some pictures, which is nice. So we have some basic values here. But what I'm looking for is a value that is equal to a value. Hmm, not this. So we're just going to try to check if, because Zoho Creator has this, and we have to make sure. to see if we can provide that kind of value. No, that's not what I'm looking for. Okay, let's check something out. Mm, that's in the field selection. Okay, so this didn't do it. Okay, this is field reference. So we're asking how to use field reference. Okay, so everybody is saying that we should use a custom function for this. Okay, so there's an argument, and this is added to the roadmap 1 year ago, 2 years ago. Okay, so I think this feature is not available yet. Zoho CRM's report. So what we're going to do in a hopeful scenario is to ensure that this thing is empty. Okay. Now I am seeing $sign here. So I want to be, let me see, what was the value that was here? I want to try to play a smart one. And that's in the, let me go to the history of this flow. Okay. And I want to see what's, where ID, what it was. So ID was this. So let me try to use this empty using $sign ID. Okay. And let's hope that it's going to work. This is an instant action. We're going to carry out a field update now. And then to update the field, we're going to say update ZCRM. Hang on. Okay. I'm not seeing the field to update here. So I think that this is I have to save this somewhere. I'm coming. I'll just do something here. Okay, I'll just put another thing here first for now. Let's just save this here and save. So now I need to come to this workflow because I'm not seeing the layout. I think the layout, because the field is not a public field, I can't see it inside the workflow setup. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come to the layout, come in here, and I'm going to make this set the permission. Everybody can read and write, but it's still not set as a public field. So let me see if I can mark it as public and save. Okay. Then we'll go to our automations again. We're going to workflow rules. Oh my. So this is doing something already. Somebody came to put this here. Interesting. Really interesting. Oh my. What even happened? Um, okay, we're here. So let's go to here. Still didn't come up. Maybe I should refresh this page. I think a simple refresh does it sometimes. Okay, now I'm unable to do this here. But I have actions by Zoho Flow. You see? So I can introduce a Zoho Flow action. But let me remove this first. Add a different kind of instant action. So you see, we are dealing with something that is very weird. This is requiring us to write the function. But again, Zoho must have realized that this is giving people headache. So they must have then decided that let them make things a little easier. So, but then we shouldn't just cower easily. Always ask yourself, there is a reason for everything. There's a reason why we cannot see the difference. There's a reason, and we're going to get to that reason in a bit. So again, we're still going to go to our modules and fields. And we're going to investigate why is it that the fields are not showing, that particular field is not showing. So this field is a custom field. And if you go to field permissions, yes, it's available here. Okay. Let's go to layout rules. Okay. So let's also go to, so this thing is still showing a different color. So there's something about this field that is not good. We have to really investigate that now. come to the detail view. So this field is not in the detail view, just so we know. You see, and it's not in this view. We're unable to add it in this view. So, okay, good. Okay. So, so our custom fields are not coming up here. Okay, we have to create a condition here. Mm, mm, because it's a custom field. Okay, so I can add it to somewhere else, but I cannot add it to the business card. That's a bit strange. Choose customize in the create page. Okay, so okay, this is fine. Create. Interesting. Okay. I saw this thing inside. Okay, so oh, I see. So you can view it for others, but you can't view it for yourself. Yeah. Okay, so that appears to be what the problem is. Okay. So again, now these actions, these are tasks, but I want to remove this. Okay, it's already associated. So let me create a different action here. And there are actions by Zoho Flow here, but again, these are guarded by credits. So I don't want us to use this. Okay. See what this does. Okay, this just creates tasks. Okay, so then we'll work on the functions. So we have a gallery of functions here. And let's look at this function here. Let's look at, yeah. Okay, so we'll write our own function. Remember, we tried to learn this before now. So let's update um, Zoho CRM ID. Update Zoho CRM ID. We'll put lowercase here. And then we'll create. So this function is created. There are no arguments here. I don't know if I used the correct thing here, but inputs. No, I need to be able to integrate with the CRM without being external. Again, so here's what we'll do. Function. So do this function in Zoho CRM to update fields. Okay, good. So this has already given us a guideline on what to do. So you see that this already, if we take this, and of course, sometimes the use of AI has been a helpful thing. So we'll have integer here. We'll have contact ID here. If we drop this here, this tells you exactly what to do. So we will change this to contact ID to make sure it is a long. Then we will have the new value, which is the Okay. Well, let's even look at what's happened there. Okay, so this doesn't even do it very well because the issue is there's supposed to be an update map. So that is supposed to be an update map. So in terms of the update map, we're just going to come up with the, um, let's call this Zoho CRM ID. Okay. Now we're going to have to set up our update map to be equal to map. So the way we did with Zoho Creator. Then we'll say update map. You see that we're using Zoho CRM, but we're doing almost like the same thing we're doing in Zoho Creator. So now we have update map dot puts that our field, which is ZCRM, then underscore ID, and then we'll put the value. Then we can now take update map here. So we have the record ID, takes the update map, and we can update record. Okay. So let us save. So the function is saved. We can okay. Oh, great. So it allows us to merge our values. So this is the contact ID. Good. And then this takes the CRM value. No, we don't have to do this. We just have to associate only that. So now we have the contact value merged. And we have let's see. So we have ZCRM ID. Okay, this has saved. Let's check the argument. Okay, great. So ZCRM ID is not assigned to anyone, so we can get it from outside. Okay, so I think that's if we go to I'm not sure what I did here, but okay, this is in developer space functions. Okay, that's it there. Okay, so this is an automation function that allows us to update the ZCRM ID. So let's go back to our workflow. I mean, this is me not even knowing how to do this, but I did it. So I come here and I don't use the field update. I use a function. I use functions created here. I use update CRM ID. Now, they did some association here. I'm not sure how that works, but I can still go ahead and associate as I like. So I'll go to contact here. I go to contact ID and associate. I will still associate contact ID again. Contact here and contact ID. So I save and associate. So this now helps me to update this record. Now, I'm just hoping that this doesn't run forever. So this is not a safe thing to do. Rather, if you want to feel safer, what you should do is run this when this is empty. Yes. So this is a safer thing to do. Then you can come up with a rule for the module and field in contacts here. I mean, this is our test account, so if we meet any bumps, we can always come and change it here. So we can come to, we need to make this read only from the user. Okay. So maybe a standard user will see it as read only. Or maybe we can choose not to show it. Okay, public field cannot be marked as don't show. Okay, fine. Then we'll make it a non-public field then. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take a risk and I'll choose not to show this field. So set permission, don't show. Don't show it for anybody. So that when we go to the CRM affair, the field is not showing. So you can have your CRM, people are using it, and as an administrator, you've done a lot of configurations that make it work. And they don't even know what you're doing behind the scenes, but you are actually doing stuff behind the scenes. Okay. So so I want to edit this record now. And let's just be sure that everything still works normally. So I'm changing this to Mr. And I'll save it. Now let's go to Zoho Books and be sure that Mr. saved. Yes, it worked. Okay. So now let's create a new record in Zoho CRM and be sure that it will work. So this our new record is going to be Mrs. Mary Jane. Mrs. Mary Jane. And we'll save. So we've added Mrs. Mary Jane. So let's go to Zoho Books and check. Mrs. Mary Jane was added. Now, you know what is beautiful here is that Mrs. Mary Jane was added, but now we want to see whether what we did caused any havoc. So let's go to setup now and quietly make that field available. Because while you're doing things, you also have to check that what you're doing doesn't burst any pipeline. So you set permission. Let's take a peep. Just peeping. Okay. Now, I just want to be sure that this worked. I shouldn't have hidden it in the first place, but I was trying to be overconfident. And okay, so this didn't work. That may have been because I hid it. So let's save this. Okay, it didn't update. So let's check. I hope I enabled that automation. It's looking like I didn't. I did do this one. Let's view the usage. Okay. So it's saying it succeeded in running the function. But I'm trying to find out what happened if the function executed successfully. What then happened? So let's go back to our function. I think the problem is inside the function. So we'll go to our ZCRM function here and we'll edit the function. So, oh, I left this as leads. Sorry. It's my bad. I left it as leads. So let's go back to the CRM now and try to update, see what this does. So if I update Mary Jane, what did it do? Okay, this doesn't still update Mary Jane. So I think the best thing for us to do is to test this. So for us to test this, we need to copy this contact ID and see whether our function is working the way we expect it or try to read out any errors that we're getting. So this is to tell you that every time that you are trying to build something, always check that credits are required or not. It's very important so that you don't shoot yourself in the leg. So we're trying to execute now, and I'm going to try to put these IDs here. Okay, so what happened? Okay, so there's some sort of error here. Okay. I think that it used input here. That was the issue. So let's save again. And let's execute. Okay. So what do you have here? Message invalidated. Expected type text. Okay, so this is supposed to be a text. Okay. So I'm going to change this to string now. And let's run this. Yes, so it modified. Okay. So let's go to our Zoho flow because Zoho flow is going to be popping bottles here now. 125. Okay, so nothing really changed here. Okay. So our function has been fixed. Okay. So the function works. So let's go back away from here now. Close this. And let's go back to the CRM. You see, Mary Jane has a record. Now let's say she does not have any record. Let's say this is blank. Okay. Oops, it put her ID. That was quite automatic. All right. But if you put something else, it's also not going to work. One of the other things that we can do is to use a function to check whether it's the proper ID or not. Okay. So, but we can do that another day. But at least we know that we can use functions in Zoho Flow and use functions in Zoho CRM. Now, what we're doing in Zoho CRM and Zoho Flow is that Zoho CRM has its function to take care of its own garbage, its own issues, while Zoho Flow has its functions to take care of its own issues. And none of them are breaking the bank. Okay? So we're just going to crave our indulgence to do one more thing. We're going to keep this tidy. We already have IDs for both records, but let's try to hide them so that we can achieve this result today. So we're going to go to our layout now, modules and fields, contacts, and let's go and hide now that the function is working, let's go and hide the field from everybody so that people in everyday life don't come and start editing the field. So we say don't show. So let's say this field is not visible in broad daylight. Okay. And we're going to create a new record in the CRM right now. And the record is going to be Professor Max Wellington. Okay. So we're saving this now. Now we don't have any references here. But if we go to Zoho Books, we'll have Professor Max Wellington. Okay, this was creating Mary Jane several times, which is not a very good thing. So I think we're going to work on what did that. I think it was creating Mary Jane because there was no ID there, right? So let's see whether this thing is going to work quietly. Let's say this guy loses his status as a professor, or he becomes a doctor. He prefers to be called a doctor. So Dr. Max Wellington. We come to. Okay, so this created a new record. That means that if you. Wow, that's a new reality. So if you hide this field, it's not going to be editable. Okay. So I think that we're going to come up with a field rule instead of hiding the field. So let's go to permission and let's show the field to everybody. Okay. But let's come up with a field rule, like a layout rule. And we'll say hide ZTM ID. We'll say ZTM ID is let me see. Let me me say if this is not empty, what does it do? Uh, okay. I want to remove this row. I don't need this one. This is not what I'm talking about. Okay, let's say I might this here. Let's go field permissions. Okay, great. So I think we just have to have our type of users and make sure that those specific people cannot update the record. So we'll make sure a standard user cannot update that ZCRM. Because if you turn it off for everybody, it's going to be creating duplicate records in Zoho books. So let's come here now and open our Max Wellington. And you see that it didn't even have any record. So what we're going to do now is that we're going to remove Max Wellington and Mrs. Mary Jane. So we can start recording them all over again. So we're going to save Dr. Max Wellington. And he's going to have his ID inputted here. And then it's going to be in Zoho Books as Dr. Max Wellington. If we now change him to Professor Max Wellington, and we come back and forth here, we have Professor Max Wellington, no duplicates. So again, if we go to our Mrs. Mary Jane, we have to edit. And then if we check, we have Mrs. Mary Jane. Now, if Mrs. Mary Jane now got a degree or something somewhere else, and she becomes Dr. Mary Jane. Okay, so you can come and check. And okay, I think that Mrs. Mary Jane's record is not in order here. Okay. We need to do something about Mrs. Mary Jane. She's not being updated. And I hope that this is not because let's see what happened with Mrs. Mary Jane here. And this was Dr. Mary Jane. So why didn't it update? Okay, let's see if there's something going on in Zoho. No, nothing else. This is Dr. Mary Jane, yes? So let's save. This is 138. And it updated. So let's come here. I think that we put the wrong record. Oh, I'm so sorry. We put the wrong record. So let's just take out this invoice. We used the wrong record here for Mary Jane. So I think we should create this Mary Jane again because we actually did it manually. So let's make this blank and save Mary Jane. It automatically puts her ID, and then you have Dr. Mary Jane. So if you change this now, change the salutation, you have Mrs. Mary Jane. And if you go and come back, it's Mrs. Mary Jane. So let's do one more thing with Zoho, and then we're done for today. We're going to create another contact. And this time we're going to create back our John Doe. Okay? So you can say John Doe. And this time you do not need to have, it doesn't have to be a perfect scenario like Mr. or something. No. So you find out that even when you come to customers if you come to customers in Zoho Books, okay, our guy has failed us now. That's it. Let's check. Okay, I think that this is because, let's see, because title was blank. So let's remove that condition. It's not compulsory that you must put in title. So always make sure you test your functions in a way that anybody who wants to use them can use them without feeling obligated. In this our case, we have this title need. Okay. But what we're going to do now is that we're going to put something here. We're going to copy this title here. Then we'll say if title is not equal to dash, we'll use title here. Otherwise, if title is dash, then we'll do something else without title. Another beautiful thing that we can do here is we can also work with first name and last name, because we notice that in CRM, the first name is not compulsory, if I check very well. So in case you want to factor that in your Zoho Books setup, you can also factor that in your function. So what we're going to do about this is that we're going to have a different type of definition of name. So we have name definition equals what? Last name. Since last name is a compulsory field. Okay. Then we'll say that if input the first name, no, sorry, if first name rather not input, if first name is not equal to dash, then name definition equals first name and last name then. We'll call this name definition here. Then we'll put our first name and last name guy here. We'll also call this name definition. Do you see how just first name and last name issue is an issue? Then we have last name must be compulsory. So it's only if the person doesn't provide the last name that is going to be a problem. So we have our John Doe here now. John Doe did not create before, no problem. But we have corrected the function, which was the reason why John Doe did not create. Now let's go ahead and create even without John. Let's make him Doe. So if we create Do now, then we have a Zoho Books customer called Do. You see? Do, just Do. Now if we go and now change him to John Doe, okay, then we have a Zoho Books customer called John Doe. Okay, let's even do something funny. Let's not give him a name, John, but let's call him Mr. So it's like Mr. Doe. Okay. So if we come here now, we have Mr. Doe. Okay, and let's finally give it up with Mr. John Doe and click Save. And then in Zoho Books, we have Mr. John Doe. So you see now, we achieved this by what? Creating a function in Zoho Flow, two functions in Zoho Flow, one function in Zoho CRM, and then the two functions in Zoho Flow. The first function was really to ensure that we can get the name properly. So when you are writing code or when you are building things, you're going to be dealing with different kinds of situations. Imagine we spent this whole time, almost 2 hours, just trying to make sure the name of a person goes from Zoho CRM to Zoho Books. So the next time a customer contacts you to do an integration for them, tell them that integrations cost more than even building applications. It's the same way you fixing of a car, or getting mechanics to fix a car can be more costly than buying it from maybe a fairly used market. And that is because work hours spent in fixing something are different from work hours spent in creating them. A car could be set up in an hour or two, or even less, depending on the type of car. But then, that same car, all those parts that are set up, if one part goes bad, you could spend weeks just fixing that part. It could cost you a fortune to fix as compared to the manufacturing cost. So this basically tells you what the value is in integrations. And look at the fact that Zoho has all of these kinds of things, not just in Zoho CRM or in Zoho Books, all over the place, with different kinds of customer requirements. So we have 3 other sessions with Zoho Flow. So in our next session, we're going to deal with something more amazing on how we'll deal with functions from one place to the other. Maybe we're going to touch webhooks, who knows? But we're going to introduce email and phone number checks, and we're going to do some other tricks with them across different applications. That's it for today, and thank you so much. And feel free to drop your questions in the community platform. And you can play back this video in case you want to follow through anything that we have done to find out what the real solution should be. Okay, so before I go, I'm just going to try to tidy up to see if there's any flow repeating itself or anything jumping itself too much. Okay. So we are on 147 as time, but this is 144. So Zoho Flow is quiet. But of course, one of the best things to do if you are using Zoho Flow to teach or Zoho CRM to teach is to turn off the flows you used to teach. In our country, we say it gets why. And that is because you could do something else another time and forget that you were doing something with teaching, and you're going to trigger a workflow that will make you regret. So I'm just going to go to setup now, and I'm going to turn off the flows. If ever I need them, I'm going to bring them back up again. But I'm going to turn off this workflow created or updated. Deactivate. Yes. My functions are fine. I mean, as long as I don't use them, they are okay. But you see how I turned off this lead update record here? That's how this thing works. So you have to make sure that everything is tidy before you go. Okay, so thank you so much and have a great day. See you on